Everyone, it's Diane, and thanks for coming back today. Today, I want to talk about something I've been thinking a lot about lately, and that is about leading change. And in a previous YouTube video, I talked about what it meant to manage change and kind of an introduction to change. So that's maybe a good one to watch as well if you're just tuning into this one first. And today's topic really is about leading change and what it means to lead change. So here's the deal. Most of us are incredibly comfortable with the status quo. Most of us are in a state of complacency, and we really aren't going to change unless we really need to. And so, whether it's talking about a personal situation or a professional situation, or trying to change an entire team or an entire organization, leading change is really difficult. And I think that there really has to be one of a couple of factors present before anyone does make the decision to lead change. A compelling reason, whatever that might be, depending on the circumstance, but some sort of compelling reason, an inspiration of what might be possible, and sort of this inspiring vision of the future, and a sense of urgency, a sense that if we don't change, that things are really going to not be good. So unless one of those factors are in play, then people's motivation to change may be there, but their execution may be a little bit lacking. And certainly when you're trying to lead change initiatives in an organization, it's really important that you as the change leader understand those dynamics. Sometimes things have to get worse before they get better, and that's true in, I think, any change, because people's sort of jumping from the status quo to the unknown, which is often what change signifies, is difficult. And so in that sort of transitional period, there's a whole bunch of time where things feel like they're not going very well. And that's a sign that things are changing. The other thing I think is when you're leading change, you don't necessarily have all the answers. And oftentimes people really want to have all the answers. They want to know exactly what's going to happen. And visions don't come with all the answers. Visions come with a reason why it is that you should be aspiring to something better, but they certainly don't come with a guidebook. And there are aspects of managing change and coming up with strategy and execution that are parts of that. But when we're initially leading change and taking a proactive stance in leading change, in a certain way, we're making it up as we go along. And it takes a certain sort of an attitude to be able to live with that, to have the confidence or the faith or the belief that things will work out if you've got the vision nailed correctly and if you've got buy-in to that vision. I think the other thing is, what happens if we don't change? And if there's not, again, if people are pleased about complacency or more comfortable, I guess, in complacency, then it's easy to see that the change will only occur if somebody leads it. And if we don't change, we run the risk of becoming irrelevant or not achieving our full potential, or not providing the kinds of programs and services that we want to provide or that are relevant for the people we serve. So all of those things actually need to be in place before you start down the path. And people can figure out change sometimes way faster than organizations can. So sometimes on teams or in organizations, there are so many things that get in the way of change, whether it's processes, systems, communication between people, hierarchy, culture, the list is long. And so leading organizational change or leading change within a team or a department or a service stream all have those complexities to them. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, I do believe as a leader that when you're finished growing, you're actually through. And the only thing, growth and change actually go hand in hand. So, in order to grow as a leader, you need to change as a leader. And in order to lead change, you need to both grow and change yourself. And sometimes that's hard because sometimes it's much easier to blame it on other people. And one of the things we'll talk about today is the importance of leading yourself first and then leading others. We also want to talk a little bit about proactive change and fixing things before they're broken. And, that's part of the job of a leader is to sort of see things or challenge a team to do better or to take it further or to, sort of rally the troops around a vision in a proactive way. And again, when there isn't a sense of urgency, then the human tendency is to be complacent and really not be all that interested in changing. And so that's one of the things that makes change leadership so difficult. One of the things I often think about in a leadership role is about having a healthy dissatisfaction with the status quo. And what that means is that it's not that you're unhappy, it's that you're just always looking, you're curious about what else you could be doing or how else you could be doing things or what else is there that you haven't as a team tackled or how could you be better tomorrow than you are today? And those are really curious questions, and I think the best change leaders actually have that healthy dissatisfaction with the status quo. They don't wait until something's broken because they're always looking to see how it is that they can be better or do whatever it is better. So a vision comes with clarity, and change leadership is really difficult without a vision about what could be. And so I think the clearer you are on a vision for your program, for your team, for your service, for your organization, whatever it might be, the better able you are to have then the discipline of how and the consistency of what. But clarity of the why and being able to communicate that clarity is just absolutely key when we're leading change. So what's the difference between leading change and managing change? So first of all, going back to vision, change leadership always has a vision of what could be. And that vision is communicated consistently and clearly and all the time. The more consistent and focused and clear we can be on our vision, the better able we are to help our team to understand the why, to buy into the why, to participate in the why, and then to carry out the changes that the team feels are necessary to get to that described vision or that preferred or potential future state that you're trying to move to. So communication, vision, communication. The next thing is about coaching and supporting people to get there. And one of the things that we know is that everybody, sort of rolls at a certain pace. And, some people may be more comfortable going home or going away and processing things. Other people like to talk things through. Other people just really need a lot of support. But I would say that we all need coaching and support and encouragement to get to where it is that we're trying to get to. And the more team members who are participating in that, the more that word spreads throughout the organization or throughout the team. So that's a really important aspect of change leadership. The other thing that always happens is that it's not a straight line. There are always bumps in the road, failures, things to get past, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And so perseverance and momentum are really important. And again, if you're not crystal clear in your vision, don't have the communication in place, aren't coaching and supporting your team, then those kind of roadblocks or setbacks can really set you back. So paying attention to, the persistence and the sort of the path forward becomes really important, because it's easy to get discouraged. And again, people like the status quo. They're complacent. And sometimes, and we often see this in change initiatives, where people say, oh, forget about it, we're going back to the old way, it worked better. But it still doesn't achieve the goal that you were actually looking to achieve. And the last thing I think in change leadership is this not needing to know all the answers, like not having everything figured out yet, and being comfortable with ambiguity. And ambiguity is a tough thing to be comfortable with. We want to know, if we do this, what's going to happen? If this happens, what will happen? And so oftentimes, those are just really tough questions to answer, and particularly early on in a change initiative. Visions don't come with guidebooks. They don't come with, if you do step A, then step B will happen. If you do step B, then step C will happen. That's all in the change management process as we start to figure out plans and strategies to achieve the vision. But in change leadership, the number one role of the leader when you're leading change in your program, with your team, in your organization, is to have that vision, co-create the vision with your team, but be crystal clear about what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then to work together to move towards that through communication, through supporting and encouraging, through perseverance. And if you can figure all of that out, then the chances of getting to that better future state, whatever that might be, are that much more. When we're managing change, which is equally as important, no question, it's just a different kind of a deal. So managing change, we have to understand the process of change, and there are plenty of great, works written. John Fisher does a transitional curve that talks about the early adopters and then the sort of middle and then the laggards, and that's a great little diagram to look at to understand where people might be on the cycle of change or the journey of change. When we're managing change, we need to understand where we're going. And sometimes as change leaders, we're expecting that everybody can read our mind or understands where we're going. And so it's important as change leaders to focus on where we're going and to focus on the why of where we're going, because that makes it much easier for everyone to understand. When we're managing change, we have to pay attention to having an investment in the change. So if we haven't bought into the change, then who's going to? So again, as a change leader, making sure that the people you are counting on to manage the change are very clear about their own personal stake in the change and what exactly that means for them. And that's where plans and strategies come in. Communication, again, in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons that change initiatives fail is because they're poorly communicated. And you cannot just send out one email or have one staff meeting where you say, okay, this is changing, okay, everybody, carry on. It's a campaign. It involves persistence and a doggedness to actually get to where it is that you're trying to get to. And resilience. Resilience is one of those words we use all the time, but I think when you're talking about leading change, resilience is one of those things that's absolutely key in figuring that out. And I think I just want to close really with talking about leaders dealing with change, because sometimes we think it's everybody else. And the person that we forget about is ourselves. And that's a really key part of this, because what happens is leaders have to, in order for change to occur, leaders have to change too. Leaders often will have to say goodbye to what was. And leaders will have to acknowledge a change and accept it for what it is, and move forward to what will be. So as an example, you may have had a really close working relationship with a colleague who you really depended on. You two had, like, you were dialed in, you had, synergy and all of that, simpatico and all of that kind of stuff. And then in the change initiative, you're not working together anymore. Well, that requires you to say goodbye to what was, right? Like you're not able to have that same working relationship because now somebody else is coming in, and that's who you're going to be working with. So again, acknowledging those feelings and understanding that. And then I think the other piece of it is owning what is yours to own. And again, sometimes where we get ourselves to is when a change initiative is struggling, that we blame others for not actually seeing or understanding or coming with us as quickly as we would like them to. And that may be true, but until you've examined your own role in that and your own ownership in that, you really can't start blaming other people. And it's never a good idea to blame other people. It's a poor leadership tactic anyway. So for things to change, I think what you need to understand is that you may need to change. And sometimes we just don't see ourselves as part of the problem, but sometimes we get in our own way, and sometimes we get in our team's way. And so we have this sort of, because we're well-intentioned and hardworking and, we're just doing the best we possibly can, that we think that it's not impacting others or it's not getting in the way of the change initiative. And what I would say is that if you don't take the time, first of all, to do some personal reflection, and secondly, to reach out to your team and to say, look, how's it going for you? How am I doing? Are there things that I could be doing better? Is my communication clear? Is the vision clear? Do we need to put it in writing as well as, on social media? Whatever it might be. But seeking feedback about you from your team. And we often think that other people need coaching and supporting, but what I would say is that oftentimes it's the leaders who need coaching and supporting. Because if you're not clear and focused and have perseverance in yourself, then how on earth do you expect somebody else or the rest of your team to do that? I just want to close off on sort of some, I think, ways that leaders can change in order to achieve good, strong leadership of change. The first one is risk-taking. Like, are you willing to push yourself out of your comfort zone? And if you're not willing to push yourself out of your comfort zone, how do you expect your team to push themselves out of their comfort zone? And that's something to pay attention to. The self-reflection and the humility and those kinds of things, celebrating your successes and really reflecting on your failures and learning from your failures. And if you think that you're going to get through leading any sort of change without messing it up, well, I've never met anyone like that, first of all, but I think that what can you learn from where it doesn't go right? And then how can you recover from that? I often say leadership is all in the recovery. And so you get a couple of cracks at this, and it's important to do that self-reflection. I think soliciting opinions from others and really looking for opinions that may be different than yours. So oftentimes we look for people who agree with us. And, Adam Grant, love Adam Grant, Think Again, and many of his other works where he talks about the importance of soliciting opinions from people who disagree with you and or who have different opinions. There's just no point in being in a room where everybody completely agrees from the get-go. And conflict of ideas is just so important in achieving whatever the goal is that you've set out to be, and particularly when you're in a change initiative and you've got a vision of what the state is that you're looking to get to. Differing opinions are really important. Careful listening. So not only do people have different opinions, but you also need to make sure you're listening to those opinions, and listening, period. What's your talk ratio balance? or talk listening ratio, sorry. Because if you're doing all the talking and none of the listening, then you're probably missing an opportunity to gather input and feedback from others. And then an openness to new ideas, and a willingness to change your views, curiosity, and not always feeling like you have to be the expert in any change that you're leading, and being willing to listen to other people, to solicit opinions wherever you can. So that's the deal about change leadership, and it's tough, but I have every confidence that with some of the right stuff, we can all lead change initiatives. And goodness knows, there's so many different things in the world that could use some good change leadership. And so come up with a vision, work with your team to have a vision, and figure out how it is that you can lead people towards that vision. Hopefully that's been helpful today. I'm sorry we went a bit longer. It's a topic I'm very passionate about, as you may have noted. But anyway, I'll see you next time. So thanks again for coming today.